We kick things off with a cute girl who talks about her journey towards becoming a magician. She had started learning magic when she was a child, and went on to become a master when she was just 15 years old. The girl says that she has gone through a lot of training to become so overpowered, and she even asked the most famous sage in her kingdom for advice on magic. With all this guidance, the girl thought that she had achieved the greatest heights of the magician world. However, her dreams are shattered as she faces off against an overpowered magic boy. He taunts her by asking if he can get serious against her, but the girl is unable to understand how he is so skilled. She wants to know who this boy is, so he reveals that his name is Sume. He claims to be a magician as well, so it shocks the girl beyond her wildest imagination. She's not going to just stand there and take all of this, so she chants a spell and unleashes her ultimate move, known as Truth Flare. Even Sume is amazed by this spell as the girl lands a direct hit on him. A massive explosion follows, and it looks like things are about to get interesting. However, before the fight can move further ahead, we suddenly switch to the real world where Sume falls to the ground and hurts himself. He is seen in a uniform, and his hips are hurting badly from the fall. On top of that, he is with his friend Shauna, who asks him if he's alright. Sume says he's fine, but his bottom side is hurting badly, and it annoys him. The boys also have a girl named Mizuki with them, so they ask her if she's fine. Mizuki is not hurt because Shauna decided to act brave for her, and he grabbed her curvy body to avoid any harm. Despite this, the situation these people find themselves in is rather odd, because it feels very similar to the novel that Mizuki had shown the boys earlier. Sume can't even laugh at this, because it's not a joke. As a matter of fact, we see the three of them inside a magical symbol which has summoned them into another world. The task at hand is to defeat the demon lord of this world, but Sume is not too keen on this. Mizuki is amazed to see the architecture around her, and is actually excited to be a part of a fantasy world. Sume is worried that Mizuki is liking this vibe, so he wonders if this is some kind of trend. Shauna tells him to think with logic, because the three of them are not in their own world anymore. As a matter of fact, it looks like our hero is Shauna, who is blessed with super strength, as can be seen when he knocks over a pillar by simply tapping it with his fist. Shauna seems to have been chosen as the hero of this mission, because only he can feel the immense strength flowing through his veins. Mizuki is amazed to see Shauna like this, so she calls him her personal hero as well. Sume also has to admit that he might only be a side hero because he can't feel any of the powers that Shauna is feeling. Our hero doesn't want to waste time thinking about these things, so he asks Mizuki about what happens in the novel after this situation takes place. It makes sense to ask her that, because Mizuki has read the novel, and she says that they will end up pressing a button which will lead them to the final dungeon. Sume doesn't like the sound of this, because he has not signed up to defeat a demon lord. Shauna tries to make him feel better about it by saying they could gain a lot from completing their mission. Mizuki, on the other hand, worries if they will get caught up in some kind of civil war. There's always the fear of a bigger enemy lurking around the corner, but then our hero hears something suspicious. Sume also senses this presence, but Mizuki can only panic like a cute girl. That's when we see a couple of other girls walking towards our hero, and they are even curvier than Mizuki. It doesn't take long for them to catch up with Shauna and his team, and both the girls seem to be happy to see them. One of the girls is called White Flame, and she is asked why there are 3 people here when only one hero was supposed to be summoned from another world. White Flame agrees that what the other girl is saying makes sense, but they don't have an answer for Sume and Mizuki, so they start talking about other possibilities. From the looks of it, maybe Sume and Mizuki had been dragged in by accident when Shauna was being summoned here, but the fantasy girls have never seen such a thing, or even found it in a book their whole lives. Sume figures that the girls did not expect to see side characters in Shauna's story, so this might not turn out to be a good thing for them. At this rate, the fantasy girls also suspect that Mizuki or Sume might just form a contract with the evil god just so that they can fight against Shauna. None of this is making any sense to Shauna, because an evil god just sounds very wrong. Mizuki tries to keep him calm by saying she would never hurt him even if she became an evil goddess. This is because she has shady intentions for Shauna, and this gets his intrusive thoughts going. Of course, Sume doesn't like the fact that he is being treated as the side character, because he would ideally want to be the hero instead of Shauna. The Chosen One is shocked by what Sume has just said, so he asks him if he is going to make a contract with the evil god. Sume turns over to the dark side and tells Shauna that he has been hiding a deep, dark secret from him. He claims that he has always found Shauna to be a lesser man, which is why he wants him to explode. This turns out to be a prank that Sume is playing on his friend, but Shauna does get affected by it. The wizard girls decide to stop this idle chat and go on to explain that they're the ones who summoned Shauna here. The girl known as the White Flame is introduced as a court mage, going by the name Felminia, or Fel. The other girl also reveals that she is the princess daughter of the king of the Estelle Kingdom. Her name is Titania, and her body is just as curvy as her name suggests. Our hero doesn't want to look at curvy bodies for now, because he needs to figure how Fel was able to summon him and his friends into this fantasy world. Suddenly, he senses something from Fel and it makes him alert. Shauna doesn't want to be mean to such cute girls, so he introduces himself, and then Mizuki and Sume also go on to reveal their names. Now, Fel reveals that there is a reason for her to have summoned our hero to his world. Shauna braces for impact, because the wizard girl says that she has a favor to ask from him. That's when we learn that the girls want Shauna to get rid of the Demon King, Nakshatra, who not only rules all the demons of this world, but is also threatening the peace of every living being. This is a sudden shock to our hero and his friends, but they all give off a funny vibe to Fel. The wizard girl doesn't know how to react to them, so she asks if they are all right. Shauna and Mizuki seem to be fine with this new mission, and even look excited, but the same can't be said about Sume, who actually refuses the task. Now, we move to the royal palace where our hero and his friends are put in front of the king of the Estelle Kingdom, Almadius. Sume doesn't shy away from refusing the king's request either, as he does not wish to fight a ridiculous number of soldiers, neither does he want to be under the command of the wizard girls. Of course, his attitude attracts a lot of comments from the people around him because it is not normal for a hero's assistant to talk back to the king like this. Sume is seen as a selfish boy with no guts, as he seems to be taking advantage of the king's kindness. As expected, none of this affects him, as he knows he's just a normal boy in school who likes to have intrusive thoughts about girls. Shauna tries to ask him why he's being this way, so Sume explains that he does not intend to lose his life here, neither does he want to risk the lives of his friends. Shauna gets what he means, and he assumes that Sume is worried for him, as they are best friends. After all, Sume has always come to the rescue whenever Shauna has found himself in a tough spot. Of course, this is not the only thing that Sume is worried about, so he explains to Shauna that the king is asking him to defeat a demon lord who is so overpowered that he can take down a whole country all by himself. Shauna does realize that it's a massive ask, so Sume tells him that he should have never said yes to the wizard girls in the first place. However, in an unexpected turn of events, the wizard girls say that the actual hero is Shauna and not Sume, because traces of the hero element can be sensed from his body. Sume is not pleased to hear this, but it does make sense, especially because Shauna was the one who was able to knock down the pillar earlier. The king is shocked to hear this, because he was talking to Sume all this time thinking that he was the hero. He then asks Shauna and his friends to prepare for a dinner party later on, where they can enjoy and relax for a bit. The main problem can be discussed the next day, but the king is met with a loud no from Shauna. This is a bit surprising to hear from our hero, given his kind nature, but he actually says that he wants to discuss the problem right here and now. As expected, this does not go down well with Sume, who thinks that his friend has gone mad. He tries to take Shauna to the side, so that he can ask him to rethink his decision, but he should know by now that Shauna is not going to change his mind. Our hero also tells Sume to leave the rest to him, but he does not know what Shauna means by this. After all, they are in a fantasy world which is under threat from a demon lord, and they have no idea how Shauna is going to end up using his powers. Sume is very stressed about the whole thing, mainly because he has not completed a promise that he had made to someone very important to him. As expected, he does not wish to lose his life before he can fulfill his promise, but Shan has set the ball rolling. Now, it's time for us to gain some context. So we learn that around 3 countries north of Estelle, there is a kingdom known as Gnosis, which is also called the Land of Intense Cold. It so happens that at the north of this kingdom, there is a border that separates the human territory from the demon territory. This was basically humanity's ultimate fortress against the demons, and it was good enough to keep the demon lord at bay for a while. However, around half a year ago, the demon forces used a speed attack on the fortress and were able to take it down. Gnosis and its knights were unable to stop the demon lord from taking over and eventually failed in their mission. Mizuki gets upset after hearing this, so she asks what happened to the humans of Gnosis. Unfortunately, since demons don't like to take hostages, they ended up taking the lives of all of Gnosis's citizens, leaving only a few lucky survivors. Of course, this is horrible to hear, but that's just how demons are. A bald man, who seems to be the king's advisor, says that demons look down on humans and treat them like slaves. They are much more overpowered than the strongest of humans, which is why there is no scope for negotiating with them either. The only thing to do is defeat them while showing no mercy at all. We also learn that the demon lord is chosen by the Salvation Church to represent the other demons. If such a person was not in place, then the demons would have gone crazy and ended humanity a long time ago. Sume figures that the demon lord is the oracle of destruction, as everything is based on his decisions. Of course, since the situation was bad, the people of this world tried their best to stop the demons, but they all failed miserably. With this, they had no other choice but to summon heroes from another world, just like they did here with Shauna. In a hilarious display, Mizuki and Sume are told that there are a lot of dangers in this world. There were 2 attacks from titans that would eat anything that came in their way. Then, there were also 3 cases where tyrants had tried to take over the world in the most brutal fashion. With the Demon Lord and his army, the total has now come to 6 encounters with dangerous situations. Since there was no other way to deal with this, the magic girls decided to conduct the hero summoning ceremony. Sume and Mizuki are shocked to hear such stories and they make funny faces. This world is filled with extreme dangers, so no one would want to be a hero here in their right mind. Our hero confirms that he is to take down the Demon Lord in order to save the world, and the king says yes. He does mention that the Demon Lord's army has slowed down since it first kicked off, but they can't get too comfortable just yet. After all, it is only a matter of time before the various kingdoms of this world will be attacked by the Demon Lord and his army. When that happens, there will be nothing left to salvage, just like what had happened with Notius. Sume sees the king's gesture as an act to gain sympathy, and he hopes that Shauna will eventually decline the offer now that he knows the truth of the matter. However, when the king asks Shauna if he will accept his humble request, our hero says yes, much to Sume's shock and dismay. It's not just Sume, but also the king and his royal subjects who can't believe that Shauna has just accepted a task that no one else would ever do. As expected, Sume lashes out at our hero and calls him all kinds of names for making such a silly decision. Shauna asks him to calm down, but Sume is in no mood to be nice right now. He even goes on to say that Shauna's brain has been frozen, which is why he has decided to fight an evil demon lord who is powerful enough to rule the world. Sume can't believe that Shauna would put his life in danger, as well as Mizuki, because they will have to fight hundreds of demons as well as Nakshatra. Of course, Shauna reasons that it is because of this demon lord that so many people are scared for their lives, so it makes sense for him to help out with his new powers. Sume says that neither Shauna nor he owe these people anything, but our hero reasons that he can't just betray their trust. They did place all their hopes on him to give them a better future, but it doesn't look like Sume is getting the picture. Shauna decides to dive into some philosophy, so he says that all human lives are connected, which is why it is important to make sure that they are kept safely. As far as owing the people is concerned, Shauna feels that debts do not exist at the start, but are rather made later on. Sume does have to admit that our hero is correct, but that is not the point here. The main thing is that Sume feels Shauna will not be able to pull off this mission by himself. However, our hero senses that he might be able to beat the Demon Lord because of the new power that is lurking within his body. Sume doesn't care for any of this, and he says that Shauna will not be able to win against such an overpowered opponent. In his eyes, war is all about numbers, and they don't have that on their side. He urges Shauna to give it some thought, because there is no way for someone to be able to win against an entire army all by himself. Our hero still believes that he won't know this until he actually puts in the effort to fight the Demon Lord for the people of this world. Sume continues to say that the end result is all that matters, and not the sentiment. He does have a fair point, but Shauna has him speechless when he says that he cannot abandon people who are in trouble. Shauna goes on to tell Sume that he should not force himself to fight this battle if he doesn't want to. However, he will feel a bit assured if Sume is by his side because they have been buddies for so long. Sume has no choice but to honor the bro code, but he still has to decide if he wants to join our hero on his mission. Tensions rise further, but then he asks the king for one condition, and this triggers the other people into calling him names once more for showing disrespect. Sume doesn't care, and he goes on to ask the king to send him back to his original world. He has no desire to fight the Demon Lord, and even the bro code is not strong enough for him to stay back. Much to his dismay, Sume is told that the king cannot send him back to Japan because, quite frankly, there is no way to do this. People can only be summoned into this world, but they can't be sent back. Sume refuses to accept what he has just heard, so he asks the king to repeat what he said, just to be sure. The answer remains the same, which means that Sume is trapped in this fantasy world forever. It comes as no surprise that he screams his lungs out after this, but he has to deal with his new life. Later, Mizuki asks Shauna if Sume is going to be fine, and he reassures her that his buddy will be fine the next day. After all, he has great character, so he won't be defeated by such a revelation. At the same time, we see Sume in a room with books all around him as he tries to figure a way to get back to Japan. We move to the next day, where our hero is taken to the castle's outdoor practice grounds. Shauna meets with Titania, who apologizes for keeping him waiting, and then she introduces him to all the court mages who will be looking into his magic powers. First up is obviously White Flame, but she reminds everyone to call her Fel, since that's a much easier name to remember. Fel reveals that she is a newbie amongst the other mages, but she does hope to be of use to our hero. Of course, Shauna has his eyes on her curvy body, and he can't take his eyes off her at first. That's when Fel asks if something is up with him, and that's when our hero realizes that he can't let his intrusive thoughts win. He awkwardly plays down the situation and avoids coming across as a shady hero. Before they can kick things off, Fel asks Sume if he has magic in his world. Our hero replies by saying that there is no such thing as magic on Earth, but there is science. Fel is amazed to hear this, so she asks Shauna if he is joking. Our hero confirms that magic is only something which exists in stories and fantasies, but not in reality. For some reason, Fel is still not willing to believe these words, and even wonders if Shauna is lying to her. One of the other mages decides to keep her in check by saying she should not try so many questions on the boy who is going to save her world. The magic girl realizes her mistake, so she bows down to our hero and says sorry for her rude antics. Shauna can only be awkward in this situation, so Titania decides to take over and she says that Shan should learn about the magic of this world from Fel. Basically, this will be his first time dealing in magic, so it only makes sense for the White Flame Mage to be teaching him the ways of the world. Fel becomes cute and sparkly when she hears Titania call her the best in the kingdom, and even Shauna is looking forward to working with her. However, an angry voice from behind begs to disagree with what Titania just said. It turns out to be an older mage with a mustache, and he says that he will be the best person to track Shauna about magic. The White Flame girl takes this as an insult, so she asks the old mage if he has a problem with her. He says that she should not take this the wrong way, but he does have a teaching license at the Magic Guild, so it makes more sense for him to spend time with Shauna. He even goes on to say that Fel may not ever be able to catch up to him because she is very young. Of course, Fel is not going to let him steal her thunder, so she asks the old mage to put his words to the test. The old mage is more than happy to oblige, so Fel turns to Titania for her approval of the battle. She is fine with it, so it's time for a magical showdown between a cute girl and an old mage. They need to show who's better at magic, and will also need to give the correct explanations for what they are doing. The old mage decides to kick things off with an intense spell, after which he launches a rock ridge attack. His move is quite powerful, as even Mizuki and Shauna watch on in amazement. The old mage has a smug look on his face, almost as if he believes that he has already won the match. He explains that true magic is a skill where a person releases powers by moving the magic elements of this world. He wants to give an example by saying he was able to use the rock ridge move simply by thinking about the land. However, before he can continue, he is stopped right in his tracks by Fel, who thinks that he is being too abstract. The old mage can't figure out how his attack had no effect on the White Flame girl, but she simply repeats what she said about his speech because he's doing it wrong. After all, Shauna has come from another world, so for him to understand the magic of this world, he will need a more detailed explanation. The old mage is at a loss for words, so Fel figures that she is going to teach him a lesson the right way. With that, she opens the palm of her hand and summons a magical fireball. It's time for Fel to put on a show, and she does not disappoint one bit as she chants an epic spell to unleash her deadly flames. She goes on to use her Truth Flare attack, and that's when we realize the girl who we saw in the beginning was actually Fel herself. The White Flame girl launches her finisher move and wins the duel with ease, after which she mocks the old mage by saying he's all talk and no action. More than anyone else, Mizuki is amazed by Fel's powers and she tells our hero how impressed she is. Shauna agrees with her and he figures that this is what real magic is supposed to look like. Fel looks at him with a cute face, and then she talks about the powers of the elements. Basically, in order to take the power from the elements, one needs to sense the elements themselves. So, if Shauna wants to use a fire attack, then he needs to imagine the heat that would come from flames. Same way, he needs to imagine the coldness of touching water if he wants to use that kind of magic. Of course, Shauna will need some more help with this, so Fel holds his hands and tells him to imagine the versatility of the magic that's flowing inside him. Shauna tries his best to fight his intrusive thoughts, and then he tries to imagine the power of the flames. That's when he notices a small spark coming from his hands and is amazed by his own powers. All of this is well and good, but then an angry voice calls out to Fel, and it happens to be the old mage once again. He says that the duel is not over just yet, even though it's been a while since he was knocked down by the White Flame girl. He is ready for round 2, and he summons a massive burst of energy to use on Fel. The White Flame girl asks our hero to step back because things might get ugly here. The old mage unleashes all his energy into one blow and throws it at Fel. Of course, she is not going to go down so easily, so she decides to bring out another one of her ultimate moves. Fel calls upon the powers of her white flames once more, but this time, she turns them into a tornado flare and blasts the old mage with all she's got. It's a rather brutal display, and from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like he's going to get up again. Titania has seen enough to make her decision, and she happily declares Shauna's instructor to be Fel. Our hero is delighted to have her as his new teacher, but this could probably be due to his own shady intentions. He rushes to Sume and tells him how amazing the White Flame girl truly is. However, Sume gives him a rather blunt expression because he doesn't know what to say. Shauna tells Sume that he should also come for these lessons, but he doesn't want to do this, especially after the way he behaved in front of the king. Sume knows that he's made a fool of himself, so there is no point in trying to show his face in public. For context, we learn that he had actually gone on to say some unspeakable things to the king after he was told that there was no way for him to be sent back to Japan. Both Shauna and Mizuki had to hold him back from charging at the king, but even then, it was quite a hilarious scene. Our hero agrees that his buddy might have gone over the line with that reaction, but there's nothing that can be done about that. Rather, Shauna focuses on how amazing Fel is, probably because he wants to get closer to her. Mizuki also walks in and says that the White Flame girl is brilliant, even though she is the youngest out of all the court mages. This once again takes us back to the beginning of the story, when we had learned about Fel learning everything related to magic by the time she turned 15. Since she specializes in the art of the White Flames, it was but obvious for her to be given the same name. This gets Sume thinking, and then he asks Shauna if he picked up any useful tricks. Our hero decides to show off his new powers as he summons a fireball that impresses everyone in the room, including Sume. There is no doubt that Shauna is the hero, and he even goes on to say that the girls will be teaching him sword fighting and martial arts at the same time. Mizuki is glad to hear this, because she wants to make Shauna her lover boy anyway. She showers praises upon him and says that he will soon be able to take down Fel as well, but he tries to remain humble. There's no time to waste though, because afternoon practice is going to begin. Shauna is shocked to see how fast time is flying here, but that's what happens when you're having fun. Shauna has to make a quick exit, so he says sorry to Sume, but he tells him to get going. Before he shuts the door, Shauna asks his buddy to go outside and do some walking, otherwise he will just laze around in his room and become a couch potato. Sume casually listens to Shauna and waits for the door to close, because he is hiding something from his friend. That's when we learn that Sume has been hiding books under his sheets this whole time. Basically, he is still trying to figure a way to get back to Japan, which is why he has chosen not to leave his room. He has also come up with a unique way of analyzing the text in the books, which luckily happen to be in the same language as Japan. Sume wishes to learn more about the hero summoning power, but it's going to take a lot more than some books for him to achieve his mission. He has to step out of the room and do some investigation, but something bothers him. It's the fact that he has not been caught even once while stealing books from the castle's archives. It makes him wonder if there's something shady going on behind the scenes. But eventually it all boils down to having lazy security. It's a bit ironic that the shady boy is worrying about the castle's security, but then he realizes something even more hilarious. He is now lost in the halls of the giant castle, because there is no one around to guard the place or offer any directions. Sume laments the fact that he is no less of a fool than the people who have planned the security of this castle. With no other choice, he will now have to find someone who can help him find his way. It doesn't take long for Sume to come across a person, so he calls out to her. It happens to be none other than Fel, so Sume is a bit taken aback by her presence. She is also surprised to see him lurking around these corners, so she asks him what he's doing over here. Sume has to play dumb, so he simply says that he's come out of his room for a walk. Fel is fine with that logic, but she also says that Sume should be roaming around with someone who knows the paths around the castle. After all, he did get lost right now because he was alone. Sume gets what Fel is telling him, and he promises to do better next time. It's a bit surprising that Sume had to meet Fel out of all the people in the world, but he can't help it now. She offers to walk him back to his room so that he doesn't get lost, and he takes her up on that offer. The White Flame girl does have an important question to ask Sume though, and it has to do with his decision not to fight against the Demon Lord. Fel wants to know why he was so determined not to help out her people, but Sume has no words to say. The White Flame girl is upset with him because his friend Shauna is her hero, and he is outside trying to make his powers perfect. On top of that, even Mizuki is with him despite being a cute girl, so it's hard for Fel to believe that someone like Sume is not keen on helping out his friends. Of course, it's not just about explanations or morals, as he says that he has no wish to come under any kind of danger. This is his reason for not fighting against the Demon Lord, and there is no complex reasoning behind his decision. Fel takes a moment to digest what she has just heard, and then she calls Sume a despicable man. He is shocked to hear her call him that, but she fully means it. The White Flame girl openly says that he is a coward who does not even deserve to be Shauna's friend. After all, it's our hero who's doing all the work while Sume is only acting smart from the comfort of his room. The coward boy wants to understand why Fel is so upset with him, because the natural thing to do would be to reject such an offer. If a human was to be summoned into another world and suddenly ordered to fight against an overpowered entity, then it would be normal for them to say no. Fel doesn't get this, because she had used hero summoning, which means that only a man deserving of the title could be brought into her world. Sume has had enough of Fel's lectures, so he says that he doesn't care about what she thinks of her hero summoning spell. He is a victim of her mistake because she was only supposed to summon Shauna, but ended up dragging him along, that too, against his wishes. He has not come here for her sake, and he does not owe anything to Fel or her people. The white flame girl gets his point, but she has a counter for it. If Sume is a friend of Shauna's, then he should have an obligation towards him and not anyone else. This actually takes him by surprise. And then Fel says that he should have chosen to help his friends, especially because he does not have any virtues. He could have been of some use to Mizuki and Shauna, and this would have been his redeeming quality. With that, Fel continues to call Sume a helpless man, because he's out here arguing with her, while Shauna and Mizuki are doing the best they can. That's when Sume realizes that Fel is getting upset with him not for her own sake, but because of Shauna. This surprises him, because he was thinking that Fel was only trying to push her own morals onto him. In reality, she is a very nice girl, who looks very cute when she's upset. Fel can only see Sume staring at her, so she thinks that he has shady intentions. She yells at him for not listening to her, but he immediately says sorry for his actions. On top of that, he also tells the white flame girl that he can hear her loud and clear even if she doesn't yell at him. Fel should be more like a lady, because her yelling might bother the people around her. She realizes that she let her emotions take over, and she also apologizes for losing it. Fel then goes on to promise that she will correct Sume and his attitude, but he ponders how it came to this. He goes on to say something witty to Fel, but all of a sudden, she falls to the ground with her robe all over the place. Sume has no idea what's going on, but Fel thinks that he was the one who made her fall. He is just standing there doing nothing at all, so it's not like he physically pushed her down. What's more is that the robe has completely wrapped itself around Fel, so she is quite helpless. She struggles to get out of her robe, and is unable to hear anything that Sume is saying. After a lot of effort, she still isn't able to take the robe off, so she calls out to Sume for help. His intrusive thoughts start to take over, but he doesn't have a choice in this case. He starts to take off Fel's robe, but she panics because he might do something shady to her. He asks her to relax, and then he finally manages to free the white flame girl from her own clothes. This actually leads to a romantic moment between the two of them as they look into each other's eyes. Sume asks Fel if she's alright, but she can't say anything due to blushing out of shyness. Anyway, Sume is amazed to see how dirty Fel is just because of the robe wrapping itself around her. He asks her to turn over to the other side, so that he can wipe her face clean. Once again, we see the two of them in a cute moment as Fel tries to control her emotions while Sume wipes her face. He calls the white flame girl a handful, but she is too busy enjoying the moment. However, after a certain point, Fel realizes what's going on and becomes even more shy. She cutely smacks Sume's hands away and asks what his intentions are for her. Of course, he has no clue why she's acting this way, so he simply says that he was trying to help her out of a messy situation. The white flame girl doesn't want to admit this, so she says that it's not true. Fel wants to know why Sume helped her out even though she didn't ask him for it. He replies by saying that if he didn't take the robe off and clean her cheeks, then Fel's cute face would have been ruined. The white flame girl is not used to being called cute, so she naturally panics upon hearing this. This causes her to blush and she can't control her emotions, so Sume asks if she needs any help. Of course, after exposing herself to him, Fel can't take any more of this, so she decides to scream like a cute crazy girl. Sume is at his wit's end due to her actions, so he demands to know why she's being so weird. Fel simply says that she needs to leave due to some urgent work, so she will see him later. Sume still needs to get back to his room, so he asks Fel to help him out, but she can't walk with him otherwise she will give in to her own intrusive thoughts. The white flame girl tells Sume that he can go straight down the corridor, but doesn't give him all the instructions and simply asks him to find someone else to help him out. However, this is not what Sume wants in the first place, because he is actually looking for the room where he and his friends were summoned. He has found himself in a bit of a spot, but then Fel says that she's sorry for whatever she said to him. Sume is shocked to hear this, but the white flame girl is sincere in her apology. She does also mention that she's going to get back at Sume for making her blush, but he doesn't care about that, so he walks away. Fel continues to scream at him, and she orders him never to forget what has happened today, even if it includes seeing her in a delicate situation. Of course, Sume is still trying to figure out what triggered her in the first place, but now he's in a spot of bother because he will have to find his target location without any further assistance. Meanwhile, Fel is upset with herself because she showed the cute side of her character to a boy she does not even like, so it is an embarrassing situation. At the same time though, she can't stop thinking about how Sume called her cute, and she starts to blush again. Of course, she tries to resist the temptation of doing unspeakable things with Sume, because it is unlike her to give in to her intrusive thoughts. Soon enough, Fel figures that it was a bit rude of her to leave Sume alone like that when he was still lost in the mansion. She decides to go back to him and offer her support, but she is unable to find him now. Fel is a bit puzzled because he was right here not too long ago, so she wonders if Sume is still lost. In that case, she should start searching for him, and she starts with his room. Sume is not here, but Fel's eyes fall on something a lot more important. She finds the books that Sume has been reading, so she is a bit puzzled as to what he is doing his research on. It makes sense to her though, because Sume does come a world where science rules all. Now, we see Sume in the summoning room with a few books, because he wants to continue with his research on how to go back to Earth. Now, we shift to the other side of the castle, where a knight is checking out the North Tower for any intruders. He wonders when his duties will come to an end, because it doesn't make sense for anyone to attack the same castle in which the hero is also living. Suddenly, he hears a voice from behind, which asks him if there's any point in trying to protect the hero of this world who is much stronger than the leader of the knights. The knight man panics and looks back to see who's there, but all he can see is a giant piece of armor. This armor is outside the summoning room, so the knight man wonders if the intruder is inside. It shouldn't be the case because he did inspect this place not too long ago. There's also the case that the giant piece of armor is actually a magic tool which was created by a person named Hakuin. Since such a tool is overpowered beyond imagination, no intruder should be able to take it down so easily. There's no one here, so the knight man is relieved that his fears were for nothing. He declares this zone to be all clear, but at that very moment, we see Sume standing right behind him. He waves the knight man goodbye with a shady grin on his face, but he realizes that this was a very close call. Anyway, the knight man will most probably forget about this incident tomorrow, but Sume has another problem to take care of. He taps the giant armor and it falls to the ground within a second of him touching it. The armor's pieces are separated, which means that Sume has had something to do with it. He comments that it is a piece of automation, but it wasn't here the last time, so something shady is up with the people of this palace. He picks up one of the armor's pieces and learns that it has the power to absorb magic. The defenses are quite good, and it is primarily an anti-magic weapon. At this very moment, a piece of the armor falls on Sume, but he is able to dodge it without hurting himself. Sume takes a look at the fallen piece and thanks his stars that the armor was not built to take someone's life. All of a sudden, Fel's cute face comes to his mind and he wonders what she meant when she said that she'll get back at him. He also worries that she might want to attack him for invading her research room, but that is expected from a court mage, especially in a world where war is about to be a regular thing. Sume can't worry about such things, so he figures that he will just have to prepare himself to fight Fel if she ever ends up attacking him for invading the summoning room. The first thing on his mind now is to fix the fallen piece of armor, and that's when we learn something truly shocking. Sume is able to control the armor with his thoughts, which means that he too has magic powers. He then goes on to chant a restoration spell, and then we see the armor reattaching its parts and looking brand new once again. Sume is glad that he has been able to fix this problem, but he does have another issue on his mind. It's the magic circle in the summoning room due to the power of correspondence. Basically, the technique used to create the circle is still unknown to him. The outer section of the magic circle is for willpower and support, but there is no trace of protection anywhere. This makes Sume wonder if the circle has even fulfilled its promise yet. However, the most important question in mind is how on earth is Sume going to get back home? Now, we move to the audience room inside the castle, where Fel has been summoned by the king. She seems to have said some horrible news, and the king can't believe it. It seems as if Shauna and Sume are to be harmed, but the king says that he can't do that to them, mainly because Shauna is the hero and Sume is also an important guest, although he does have an attitude problem. Fel says that she did not mention harming either of the boys, but she does have some suspicions about Sume, especially after she saw all the books inside his room. She says that Sume is tricking everyone into thinking that he is stuck in his room, but he is actually roaming around the castle when no one is looking. On top of that, he has also taken books from the castle's archives and studying about this world. The White Flame girl does raise a good point, but the king doesn't seem to be thinking like her. He says that Sume might want to learn more about their world because he is new to all of this. After all, he can't go back to his own world, so he's probably trying to figure a way to adjust to life over here. Most importantly, he is free to roam around the castle, so it's not like he's committing a crime. However, Fel tells him that there were traces of Sume's entry into the band archives in the summoning room. This is concerning for the king, because you can't enter those rooms with just simple magic. Yet, Sume was able to do this with ease, so it raises a few concerns, especially because Shauna had told the king that magic does not exist in his world. Fel reveals that on the day she had summoned Shauna, she could also sense Sume using some kind of magic. She is sure of this, but she does not know what kind of magic Sume had used at that point. The White Flame girl goes on to say that if she and the king allow Sume to be as he is, then it might affect the dignity of the royal kingdom of Estelle. This is why she wants to punish him as soon as possible. The king is shocked to hear Fel speaking like this, so he reminds her not to step out of line. After all, Sume has not done anything to threaten the kingdom just yet, so there is no need to deal with him in extreme measures. Fel doesn't want to give up, so she asks the king about Sume accessing the banned archives in the summoning room as well. He simply says that there are only history books and maps inside these rooms, so there is no cause for concern at all. The king does understand that Sume is upset for not being able to go back to his original world, so he says that they must allow him some time to calm down. As far as his research is concerned, maybe Sume will be able to come across some clues that Fel and the others were not able to find, so it's not too much of a bad thing to let him continue with it. Fel agrees with the king, but she worries that if he allows Sume to do as he pleases, then it might affect the king's reputation. Personally, His Majesty doesn't care for such things, but he wonders why Fel is talking about Sume so much. He asks her if she is having shady thoughts about him, and the white flame girl panics upon hearing this. She tries to cover up her intrusive thoughts, but the king has had enough of this conversation, so he tells her to let it be. With that, Fel has no other choice but to obey him, because he is the boss after all. The white flame girl walks away feeling upset, but the king only laments that her mind is taking over her heart. As she walks away, Fel is interrupted by someone, so she asks what's up. A shady man in a robe tells her that it's an urgent matter, and it has to do with Sume. Fel gets excited upon hearing Sume's name, so she follows the robed man to the summoning room. Here, she finds the magical armor, but learns that it has been completely destroyed by Sume. So, not only is he roaming around the castle as if he owns the place, but it also looks like he's planning to harm the king. Fel is shocked to hear such an accusation, so she asks the robed man if he is just jumping to conclusions. He agrees that he might sound a bit extreme, but Sume does have a reason to harm the king because he can't go back to his own world. As a matter of fact, he has also heard Sume hurling expletives while claiming to get back at the king for what he's done to him. What's more is that a lot of the security measures against intruders have been taken down, especially the ones that are close to the king's bedroom. On top of that, a lot of people have claimed to see Sume roaming around these places, so it's highly possible that he is the imposter among them. Fel can't believe what she's hearing, mainly because it's hard to imagine Sume being able to have so much power. The robed man asks her if all is well, but Fel can't afford to expose her thoughts to him. Instead, she asks the robed man to keep this a secret from all the other court mages, as she wants to take care of Sume all by herself. Fel has a passionate look on her face, and she is going to end this once and for all. She does thank the robed man for giving her so much information over the past few days, but he says it's just his duty to do so. He also offers to help Fel with her mission, because his country is most important to him. However, the white flame girl doesn't want too many people to get involved, so she says that she will count on him some other time. With that, she leaves the scene, but is also upset with Sume for being such a shameless magician. She can't stand to bear the fact that he is willing to harm the king just because of a small grudge, so she will not let him commit such an unforgivable act. Fel charges towards Sume and hopes that he is going to clean up his act soon enough. However, we are in for yet another twist, when the robed man actually turns out to be shady, as he is the old mage that Fel had defeated earlier. This was his plan all along, because he wants to create tension between the white flame girl and Sume. He knows that Fel is a bit naive due to her age, so this made for the perfect plan. Now that the seeds of his mission have been planted, it is only a matter of time before everything comes together for the old mage. What exactly does this man have in mind for the white flame girl and Sume? Will he be able to ruin their potential romance? Also, is Shauna going to have to fight against his own friend later on in the story? Like, share, and subscribe to find out in the next video. Hit the bell icon to get notified when I upload part 2. See you soon.